Donald Trump instilling fear in those who will hear him out ahead of the midterm elections?
That's absolutely right. Quite an extraordinary audio, a bit of audio that was leaked to the New York Times, who obtained this audio recording. And according to this audio, you appear to make out President Donald Trump speaking to these evangelical Christian ministers, stating that with this one election, you're one election away from losing everything you've got. And you're absolutely right, Shahan, that also stating essentially coming out and saying that everything that the Trump administration had worked on in their time in office could be undone violently if they were to lose badly in the upcoming midterm elections. Now, the press did quiz the White House on whether President Trump was referring to Democratic lawmakers or whether he was referring to far left groups. The White House didn't immediately respond to those comments. Of course, many people are drawing some slight parallels to the events that took place in the United States in Charlottesville around this time last year during the violent clashes between far left and far right groups in Charlottesville, where President Trump came out and said that both sides were to blame for the violence. But certainly some huge concerns. This really seen by many in the US as ramping up the tension ahead of these midterm elections in November.
Yeah, any reaction to those exaggerated statements from Republicans and Democrats, though?
Well, the reaction from lawmakers so far has been somewhat muted, of course. Plenty of attention in Washington is still very much focused on the passing of John McCain. Still plenty of condolences from lawmakers there. But we have heard from the House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi taking to social media, taking to Twitter, stating, and I quote, "The fearmonger in chief is at it again. Why is the GOP afraid of our promises of a Congress that works? Hashtag for the people." Nancy Pelosi listing a few of the Democrats' policies, such as affordable health care, raising pay, strong wage growth, to what she describes as rebuilding America. But again, this certainly shows some of the concerns. Of course, there have been, if we cast our minds back to the 2016 presidential race, there were clashes at many of President Trump's rallies when it came to supporters of the Democrats clashing with President Trump, or then presidential nominee Donald Trump during his rallies and his public speeches. So there's certainly concern in the US that this kind of rhetoric could lead to more of the same as we head towards the midterms.
So what are polls saying about who's going to take the midterm elections in November, or is it too early to call?
Well, it's certainly early to tell. I think it's incredibly important to remember that if we cast our minds back a couple of years, no pollsters were predicting that Donald Trump would win the 2016 election, or certainly would win by any means of the huge gains and the huge victory that he had in many of these swing states in the United States. So I think many pollsters are certainly since then have taken a long, hard look at themselves about the optics and the metrics they've been using, and to try and come up with more accurate readings in the future. Now, there have been a couple of polls released recently that I think are important to stress. NBC's recent polls have stated that millennials are really disillusioned with the political process and the options they have in the United States, saying that millennials are somewhat mixed on the chances of the Democrats, or their favorability of the Democrats, slightly less appealed by the prospects of the Republicans as well. Now, it's also important to think of the recent Ipsos pollsters who say that women and wealthy Republicans living in the suburbs in the United States will be crucial for these elections. They also come out, and their president of public affairs has come out and stating that the most recent signs point to the Democrats doing well. Certainly in the House of Representatives, it'll be more of a struggle for them to reclaim ownership of the Senate, but they do see gains for the Democrats at this early stage. Of course, many are looking at what they're now describing as this blue wave for the Democrats to take control of at least one of the branches of government.
All right, thanks so much for that. Appreciate it. Our US correspondent, William Denslow in New York.